plate. But in terms of fashion, I'd say it's not really that bad, because end of the day, I feel that it's something which requires a certain kind of a personality, a certain kind of a look. And it really is very difficult when you are standing against all these 6'2" girls, for someone who's just because, there because he's so and so's daughter or son. You are in that same space on the same ramp. I don't think it will really work, bringing in a person with who does not match the requirement to be a model per se, to say. So fashion industry in that sense is a little buffered in terms of nepotism. But having said that, I also feel that internationally, if you really see, a lot of model kids have been launched, on the ramp, and they have done extremely well. So I really like how Cindy Crawford's daughter is there, then the Hadid sisters, and even the brother. All of these guys, they've come a little pre-packaged, I would say. They come with their Instagram handle having a few million followers. They already marketed to a level where the Jenners are already, people talking about them across the globe, and they get to a certain level. They already start from being a star. They really don't have to work their way
I
through.
think that is what Karan was talking about when he said that the pre-packaging that happens, which is sometimes the work of media and sometimes the work of the person who's sitting watching the screen.
Yeah, no, I also feel but also pre-packaging, from what I'm trying to say is that a lot of times it is the family which is pre-packaged the person. They have a plan for the child. They know the child is going to be a model or an actor. They have defined a marketing plan for it. So it's a product that is coming to you. So obviously people are watching it day in and out. Any website I will open, I will see a few ads which has her face. So even before they've done anything, I'm already very familiarized with this, which is why, or what Karan is saying, media plays a huge role. And that is why we get so accustomed to seeing these people. They become stars because of the marketing and the packaging, which is also, I think, in Bollywood, they are packaged very well before they even do the first take of the movie. They're already stars. So yes, nepotism is something which needs to be
Sure.
addressed.
All the way, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to throw a different theory at you, both of you.
Right.
My theory, for what it's worth, is that ultimately it's cash that drives the cow. So essentially, if you bring in the bucks, so you can be Amitabh Bachchan's son, but after you've got your breaks, the nepotism only goes so far because people don't actually want to watch you.
Right.
Would you think that, Karan, I'm coming to you now, would you think, Karan, that this benchmark, which I call, which is the benchmark of cash, is a decider whether it is on the ramp or whether it is in the movie theater? So, Karan, how do you see this playing out? Does cash triumph in the end?
It's only the cash that triumphs in the end. It's a business like any other business. You make a cell phone, you're not hoping to lose money on it. You start a factory for clothes manufacturing, you want to run profits on it. So everything is a mathematical equation. It's a very dispassionate business. I mean, it's very surprising coming from the creative world, for me to take a stance like that and saying it's a dispassionate business, because people who are running the business are doing it because they need to make money. They need to make a successful business model out of it. And like I said, your first opportunities you possibly may get because of the fact that you're connected, or you've been prepackaged, or you've gone through the so-called initiation ceremony into the business, so that you know the kind of things you need to speak to the press, the way you need to dress up, the events that you need to go for. You also have tutoring back at home to know which are the scripts that you should pick up. If you're well advised, you'll make the right career moves. So there's a life coach at home that's treating you, giving you all the sort of information that you need. But what you do with the information and whether you have the talent for it is something that's going to be your individual journey. And it kind of, if you, for every example that you tell me for a successful son of a Bollywood actor or a Bollywood family, I'll tell you 10 others who have tried and failed because the audience is rejecting them for some reason. They didn't carry the genes of a very talented family, whatever the case may have been, or maybe they weren't passionate about it. So yes, the opportunity will come. But I think the bigger question that is escaping us, or what has really transpired in the last few weeks, Dilip, is the fact that nepotism is one debate, but I think the more aligned debate along with nepotism is groupism and favoritism. I think that's I kind of really set the cat amongst the pigeons.
I'm going to come to that next. I'm going to let Sonalika go for a minute on this issue of, is cash the queen and does she decide everything?
Definitely. If you're talking about launching a particular face or anything, if you look at even a social media launch, it's a very money exhausting exercise. It's not something that can be done just because you're so and so's media is paying attention to so and so's son, like how Karan said, Timur. At a time when he will also need to be launched, I'm pretty sure that the family will have to have a cash plan for the whole thing to be executed. So that definitely catapults you into another league when you come with a cash, like deep pockets, let me just put it, be it a business, be it being an actor launch or a model's launch or anything. It definitely plays a huge role.
Got it. Since this literary festival is also focused on human emotions, the mind, and mental health, Karan, I'm going to link your next theme to that, because nepotism is one thing, but when you have groupism, what happens is that you create the concept of the outsider who gets left out of a certain kind of joke or is the subject of a different kind of joke. Someone who you do funny things to in the green room, etc. So the groupism and the impact it has on young nascent minds very often is something perhaps that we need to pay attention to. So I'm going to let you speak about that for a minute, Karan, if you'd like to.
Sure.
Because you brought that up, and I'm going to let you expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think the factionalism or the frat club that Bollywood has always existed. Unfortunately, fortunately, again, it's linked to the bottom lines that, look, if we are making money and if we're going to have this, let's not share the pie with the outsiders, so-called outsiders. So yes, one thing I always, it's an avuncular advice I give to anyone who's trying to be an aspirant, a Bollywood aspirant, saying you need to have, you need to be very, very strong. I know it's a creative world and where you're a sensitive soul, and which is why you have the emotive ability to be able to express yourself nicely on screen, but at the same time, you've got to be made of steel inside, because it's a definite clan, and there's a hierarchy in Bollywood that's very, very strongly followed, where there is a preferential treatment that if there were two people who are both meritorious enough, the ones that are left behind is the one that is not connected to that world. One is that. Secondly, yes, this whole aspect of that you will have to fight harder for survival to stay in the business can be extremely daunting for a fragile mind. For anyone that's very, very sensitive, he needs to know that this is a very, very tough battle that he's got on, and things are not going to be easy. So he'll have to struggle much more than anybody else to be able to find acceptance there. Once he's in the club, then it's all good. But that lead up to it is very, very tough.
Got it. Sonalika, in the world of fashion, from cat calls to cat fights, the exposure of any sensitive individual to the level of, in a sense, public scrutiny of every aspect, not just of your body, but of your social life, of all aspects of you, is something that begins to irk someone who is, as Karan said, maybe just a sensitive soul or maybe just a creative mind, but the concept of muscles of steel that he talked about, or nerves of steel that he talked about. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what your experience has been? You can be a little personal if you'd like to, but otherwise you can use other examples.
Well, Dilip, in my industry, definitely it's the scrutiny that you will experience right in the beginning, and it goes on right till the end, which will bother you. And talking about my own personal experience, when I had started, I used to get a lot of, we have to go for castings for every job. So every job that I would go to, they'd say either you are too thin or you're too tall, okay, you're too fair or anything, they would just find some reason. So, to me at that point of time, it used to affect in the sense that, what can I do to be perfect? I really don't, know how to change myself.
You certainly cannot be so tall for a starter.
You can't change that really. So,
Okay.
yeah, so the thing is that it did bother in the beginning a little bit, but it's just entirely the way the mindset is. For me, I don't think so. I take other people's opinions so hard, but then there are many sensitive souls. I've seen a lot of these newcomers who struggle with it because the agencies will tell them the reason why you're not getting work is because you're not good looking enough, you're not tall enough, you're not thin enough. So various reasons, they will give you reasons what they get a feedback from the client probably. And so it affects the person individually. But what my suggestion to everyone, what I actually keep advising everyone who comes into this industry is to just stand your ground, really, not to take, like, not to be too sensitive, I'd say, because we've put ourselves out there to be criticized by people, so to say. So our life is not something which we control thereafter. It's something, like, for me also, for that matter, when I started, just the first thing that came out was this really negative article on India Today, which just broke my heart when I read that, saying that, oh, she's just not worth anybody's attention, or some, like, really harsh words was used. So I called up my agency and I'm like, I didn't do anything, why has this person written this? So she said, just take it as no publicity is bad publicity, is what my agent told me. She said, even if it's a negative publicity, it is actually a good publicity, you're being talked about, so just go ahead with it. So yeah, you need to just get a little hardened, I guess, as you move on.
Karan, in switching from hardening the nerves to needing a mentor, a guide, or a supporter, as it were, in your own life, in your own career, and you struck out in so many creative directions. Did you actively go out and search one? Did you find one? Or did you have one? What was the mantra that worked for you?
Well, no, I didn't. I never had a mentor. But what I did was anyone that I found that I'm a collector. That's in that way. That if I found someone that was worth my while, I would automatically in my mind start assuming that they're my mentor, and I would seek their guidance. I started as a ramp model with Gravera Mr. India, and then the natural transition was to do commercial modeling and then get into acting. So there was a path. But I'd come to Bombay to be a singer. That's what my dream was. But I knocked on a few doors, didn't get lucky. So I kind of said, if I have to survive in the big bad city of Bombay, which is horribly expensive, I'm going to pay for my upkeep here. So I have to obviously start doing other things. So modeling happened because I didn't have a musical career going. So, and that led to television. But what I've done actively is that I've solicited advice from people that I find were very wise. And I've also consistently avoided, and this is something I tell everyone, avoided people that could have a negative impact on me. So in that way, I've cocooned myself from people that didn't have anything nice to. I always tell people, if you have nothing nice to say, shut up. And I use that as an guiding principle.
I'm going to probe you a little bit more on that, because I think that will be immensely useful for people who are listening in. People who are looking for stuff which will make their minds calmer, easier.
Yeah.
I think you've said something very interesting here, that if you find someone negative, shut them up, at least in your mind, and treat everyone who treats you positively as a kind of mentor. Is that something that has worked for you?
Yes,
do you want to expand on that a little bit? Yeah.
So it's worked brilliantly for me. So every time I went there, it's the other thing. One of the things of being they say that the student is ready, the master shall arrive. Again, something what is a guiding principle of my life is if I meet someone that's wiser, older, has a positive streak about them, then I automatically surrender to them, and I kind of try and absorb as much of their. It's an osmosis that happens with them, but I try and absorb as much of them as possible to let them be the guiding force for me. So I've done this consistently in my acting career. When I got into television, that time I worked with really the top of the line directors. I was with Lake Tandon, who was a very senior veteran. I did my first few serials with him. Then I worked with Shivam Nair, Sanjay Upadhyay. I struck other than the fact that I was their artist, I also struck an individual rapport with them, where I would spend time and try and learn the craft from them offline, as in not within the workspace, but outside of that also. I would kind of urge them to give me time to be able to absorb as much as I could. And that paved the way for a lot of things that I do today in terms of producing, in terms of writing, in terms of, other things. So that, of course, was, and one more thing I must tell you is one thing that is the guru mantra for everyone that I in our industry is meditation. That will solve 90% of the problems within the industry, but even as a human being dealing with the tough life out there, especially with social media out there and trolls, meditation will help like nothing else.
Got it. Sonalika, mentors, their role in your life, and in the fashion industry is usually a designer or somebody who treats you like a muse, and that becomes a menteeship kind of situation. What's your read of that?
Well, it definitely, in my industry, I'd say having a mentor is very, very important, because when a lot of people come in, there's so many things that one can do. There's agencies that promise you the world, everything. So if you do have a mentor, it just helps you guide your career in the right direction. So when I started, at least I know for myself, I was really fortunate. My agent Sushma, she was a very nice lady who actually took me under her wings, and she actually guided me through the entire process of being launched and everything. And at that point in time, Tarun Thailiani, he was one of the first guys who actually launched me. So it worked in quite wonderfully, I'd say, in my case. So yes, definitely, I would say mentor is something that is very, very important. And if you are lucky enough to find yourself someone who's a veteran in the industry, then that is the best way to move forward.
Fair enough. I'm not the kind of person who does a rapid round kind of silly questioning, because I think that literature festivals are too deep to do that kind of stuff. But Sonalika, sticking with you for a minute, one knows that the business of support from the outside or guidance from the outside is a clear rule. But Karan, for example, just mentioned that meditation is, in a sense, the go-to mantra for those in that business. In your business, very often it is hitting the gym. So what is your personal kind of private space where you begin to rebalance the spirit, as it were?
You just said it. Actually, for me, it's a good workout. I really feel that kind of balances me out, and it actually puts me back into a better mind frame, so to say. So whenever anything stresses me out too much, my whole idea is to just hit the gym, which not really the gym right now because my apartment gym is shut. So anywhere, just a 1 hour workout is good enough for me to really put me back on track.
And what does it do for you in terms of mind is okay, but in your mental framework, what does it do for you when you work out? Why does it work for you according to what you think?
I don't know. I actually take it as a complete isolated me time where I can just focus on myself and focus on my thoughts. So even when I'm working out, if I'm skipping, running, whatever, it just gives me that time to unwind, which, otherwise, if you're working, running around, everything, you're constantly surrounded by people, all their thoughts, all their energies, it affects you. So I think my 1 hour of workout is my spirituality. I find that to be really very calming, and it just works wonderfully for me.
Now, satisfy my curiosity and tell me how many skips you can do non-stop.
How many? 1,000 maybe?
Wow.
That is seriously impressive. That is seriously impressive. Okay.
Not really. I actually follow people on Instagram who actually are way fitter. I would be just a person who just has.
Don't believe everything that you see on social media. Is what I say.
Oh, actually, that could be true. They claim to have done 4,000 skips, 5,000 skips, and I feel like little nobody there.
No. That does not exist.
Yeah.
This is like people on social media who say they do 100 Surya Namaskars. It's not happening.
It's not happening. True. Okay. It's like a matrix, a parallel world, a parallel dimension where people's alter egos kind of take shape there.
Karan, I'm going to come to you and meditation for a minute, because I think that's something that will inspire people, and in a sense, it breaks out of the mold of nepotism that you're talking about. Because in a sense, when you do meditation, the only nepot, if it were, is your own mind. And you decide that you are the master and you are the slave. in some senses, because if you can master your mind, you master everything, they say. What practice do you follow? And what works most effectively for you?
I start my day very early. So I wake up around 5:45 in the morning. And then I have the Tanpura. I have this app, the Tanpura app. And I just kind of, I kind of tune it to my scale. And then I just shut my thoughts. The idea is that the very thing that you mentioned, that the mind, I'm not a slave to the mind. The mind is a slave to me. So in that sense, I must know where to switch off and switch on. So if I'm able to kind of vacate my thoughts, empty my thoughts, and just stay put in silence and kind of just observe my breathing in and out, and know that nothing is going to kind of fly in and out because I've got that control. It takes a little time. It's not going to be easy. For the first time, you'll possibly do it for 30 seconds, and then you keep prolonging that time and you reach to 10, 12 minutes. But during that point of time, the idea is that all you're listening to is your inner, the inner workings of your body, how your breath is coming out, and you're isolating every other space that clouds your mind, usually through the day, some incident, something, some work related query, anything. So it's a great me too for the mind. So that's how I start my day. But I also do classical music immediately after that. So I take up a rag, whichever, maybe a lalit or a todi or whatever, and then for 1 hour and 30 minutes, I'm in that music space. And even in music, what happens is, if you were to do a rag-based singing, then you can't afford to be out of focus because you will lose the track of the rag. So these are the two very powerful things that work for me to be able to keep a mind sane.
I have to tell you both that as somebody who can barely skip 250, I'm very inspired by what Sonalika said, and as someone who uses a device called the Muse to make sure that I can meditate completely on a clear, calm mind for 20 minutes at one shot. I'm very inspired by someone who's able to do a rag for an hour and a half and maintain complete dedication to that. So last questions back on nepotism, so that we are not considered that we went off the topic. Sonalika, just one last question to you, and then I'll let you, then we'll all go after I ask Karan the same question. Is that if one were to look at you now as someone who's achieved or been senior in a business, in your business, how would you help to crack the concept of people needing help? Are you the kind of person who people could now reach out to as a mentor, as someone who can be their support or their inspiration to do better? What's the window you're giving people who are just starting out in this career?
Well, I do get asked a lot of times, and now with social media being, out there for everyone to reach out to every individual, a lot of people actually reach out to me to ask me how they should, approach about, go about becoming a model, what should they do, etc., etc. So what I normally do is I have a few friends who have good agencies, and I know that they help, launch new faces. I connect them with those right agencies, or at least, tell them, connect them with the right photographer or agencies. And that mostly helps these people out. But yeah, definitely, as a mentor, for some reason now, because of my experience, people have been reaching out a lot to me. And in the sense that a lot of times they will ask me what kind of pageants to go for, what is the kind of, agency to look at, how do they get into being a fashion model or a photo shoot models. They do ask all these sort of questions, but there is a lot of help out there now in terms of agencies and in terms of managers. Sure. They help these people for sure. Yeah. So I just guide them in that direction.
And Karan, do you see yourself as someone who's helping people to break into what your mission is?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes. Go ahead, Karan.
Yes, yes, Dilip. One of the again, like a guiding principles of my life is to be a mentor to a lot of people. Guide people and give them the guidance that I didn't get when I was starting out. So I take it very personally. If someone comes to me for guidance, I make sure that not only do I guide them, I also kind of help them through that process. And it does give me immense amount of joy to being able to add that value in, to their life. So that is something that I actively do. At this present point of time, I'm mentoring about 3 or 4 people in the music business and the acting business. It doesn't come with any sort of a transaction. It's just the joy of giving that makes me feel very happy. And even as a production house, we have an open door policy. I'm not afflicted by dogmas about what should be and how it should be. I believe if you have the passion, you can work through, and you can be an astronaut, or you can be a rock star, or you just need to, like I said, wake up early and give your time to it and be passionate about the business. So anyone, if I sense that passion about them, I go out to help them. That's something that I do very actively.
So thank you, Sonalika. Thank you, Karan. It's been a real pleasure interacting with you. I hope those who've watched or are watching enjoy themselves. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.